Emma Mills here, and welcome to the very first ever MiTV interview. And obviously I've been filming every week for 2 years now and giving you what my tips are as I'm growing a business and trying to find out the best ways forward to make things work and to get your head out of the dirt and into the clouds. And I've been giving you all the tips that I use on a weekly basis, and I thought one of the best things now to do is to introduce some interviews with people who I really admire, who have helped me, who have had massive and direct influences on my business. And it was definitely the only choice for the very first interview is to interview Nigel Botterill.
No, someone else couldn't make it, could they? I feel sure that's what's happened there. So.
Nigel Botterill of the Entrepreneur Circle, so I started my business in 2008 and I joined the Entrepreneur Circle in 2012. So Nigel is definitely, you are the first person who ever changed my thinking, made me think bigger, made me start to think about my business in other ways, outsourcing, leveraging time, all the learning that I've been through over the past 7 years now, gosh. So Nigel is one of the very first people that ever introduced me to looking at my business in a different way. And also Nigel has had a weekly video for, I think you're on episode, is it 440?
Oh, a long time now.
Five.
I don't think I ever would have started if I'd realised. I think we've just put number 450 in the can.
Oh, really?
So that is like, yeah, so it's a long time.
So Nigel has MiTV, and one of the things Nigel always tells you to do is swipe and deploy. So that's how MiTV started. So Nigel was the inspiration for that over 2 years ago. So yeah, Nigel's the very first person I wanted to interview and find out more about the things that have led to him and his success in his business, having a good balance with his home life and business, because I feel like that's what a lot of us are trying to achieve as it is, earning and having a business that you love and enjoy, but also having your own life as well. It doesn't have to just be all about work. So Nigel, thank you very much for being my very first
I'm honoured.
guest.
I'm honoured. That's like me and Ralph, the only two guests. It's really special.
Yeah. And just to tell you a little bit more about Nigel, so you are the author of 2 best-selling books.
Well, one sold a lot more than the other, I'll be honest. But one of them did really well. But Botterill sold, it's out of print now, went out of print last year, after 7 years in print, sold about 120,000 copies. So it's quite a lot, that, wasn't it? Yeah.
Gosh. So 2 best-selling books, you are a speaker, you've been a mentor to probably, I guess, tens of thousands of business owners.
We've had quite a lot of people in Entrepreneur Circle.
Yeah. I can imagine. You've created £9 million plus businesses.
Yeah, I think we're going to make a claim for that to be 10 imminently.
Oh, really? Amazing, so that's growing.
Yeah.
And ultimately you created the Entrepreneur Circle, which has affected lots of business owners' lives, which I think, it's a really admirable thing to be able to help business owners make that journey a lot easier than it otherwise would be. So Nigel, there'll be people out there who don't know who you are. So if we just, I guess, begin with your background and how you started, because you actually started in a corporate career, wasn't it?
Oh, very much so. I mean, I left school at 16 with a bunch of O-levels, as it was back then. Right. And I did what my mum and dad wanted me to do, and I got a proper job in a bank. And I joined Barclays Bank in Leeds, and I stayed there for quite a long time, for about 18 years. I was never really a banker. I managed to get on their fast track program as a staff entrant. So I got loads of great opportunities at Barclays. I was the PA to the chief exec for a while, which is a brilliant job.
All right.
We built the very first call centre. That was pretty cool. And so I was involved in some quite big stuff at Barclays.
Yeah.
But in my kind of mid-30s, so that's a long time ago now, I had to, I didn't have to, I bailed, I took the chance to go, because I didn't want to stay, I didn't want to be a lifer. And I think there was something itching inside me. And I went to work for a couple of really successful entrepreneurs. John Cordwell at Phones for You.
Yeah.
That was an interesting experience.
I bet.
We haven't got time today for that one, goodness me. But I learnt a lot from John.
Yeah.
A lot about how not to do things. But he was hugely successful.
Sure. And
I took my hat off to him. Then I worked for a guy called Hamish Ogston, a company called CPP up in York. And Hamish employed me as the managing director. That was my first kind of proper MD role. I was able to grow that business quite significantly. But in the latter time with Hamish in particular, I knew I had to do my own thing. There was no way I wanted to get old and never have tried to run my own business.
Sure.
So I had to take a bit of a bravery pill, and I remortgaged my house, so I had some cash.
Okay.
And I took £100,000 out on a remortgage because I was really well paid. Because my last few roles were we had a lovely lifestyle,
Sure.
and I think we had 3 children at that point. I've got 4 now.
Yeah.
But and Sue was a full-time mum, and we just got, which I was really quite proud of, and I didn't want that to change. So like packing all that in and walking away from the kind of corporate life to start on your own. I mean, everyone thought I was bonkers, but it was an itch that I had for like 2 or 3 years, and I just knew I had to do it. I just felt it almost viscerally that I had to have a go at this. And Sue was really supportive, and so the deal was that I'd start my own business, and I had a year, and in that first year I had to move £100,000 from the business account into our personal account, because that meant we could maintain the lifestyle that we had, because I didn't want to move house, I didn't want to sell my cars, I didn't want to take my kids out of the private school that they were at, and I needed 100 grand, which I'd been earning more than that as they paid by, employed MD. So that was my goal. And looking back, I mean, it might seem a little bit ridiculous, but I'm really pleased. That was in 2003. And looking back, I mean, I'm so pleased that I was blissfully ignorant, because my logic was really fine on, if someone else will pay me this, I must be able to do better than that work for myself. And do you know what? Honestly, it was easy. It wasn't. Honestly, it really was. It wasn't without its challenges. But I mean, I got the 100 grand happened by about August of that first year. I started literally in January, and it happened in like 8 months, and never looked back really. And I'm just so grateful that I did.
And the first business was a marketing consultancy.
Yeah, well, yeah, because
right?
What I knew was marketing. That's what I'd kind of done. All my roots were in marketing, and I thought, well, I'll help other people do marketing. So I just set out to find other businesses that were a bit rubbish at marketing that I could help, and that's what I did. And I found my goal was to have, in the first year was to, if I can find 10 businesses that'll each pay me £2,000 a month, that'll be £20,000 a month. So that's a nice little living that I could do that, and that's what we did. And made that happen. And everything else then kind of came on the back of that.
Sure.
But it was quite an interesting story, because Sue was she was really supportive. Sue's my wife. But she was also really nervous, because like it is quite a scary thing to do, because like everything kind of hung on this, making a success of this. And she had this little idea, and she set up a little local community magazine, just serving the little village where we lived, and a bit like cross between Yellow Pages and like the parish magazine it was. But it did really well, and it was funny by advertising, and she was quite quickly pulling in like a couple of grand a month of net profit. And once I got my business off the ground, long story short, but we put a package together to help other people do what she'd done, and that really was the big catalyst for me, and that became a phenomenon. And I bet there's people watching this who joined MyMag, as we called it, and MyMag just became amazing. It went multiple countries, and really MyMag gave me the capital, because that was the first time I had proper serious money, because we did a lot of sales on MyMag. We were doing like 100 grand a week from my back bedroom and stuff. I mean, it was a bit bonkers, but it gave me the capital that I needed to do all the other stuff that we've done, and everything we've done in business subsequent, with like the Best Of, which is a really successful franchise business, and all the things that we've done, in things like Entrepreneur Circle and other stuff. Everything I can track back to MyMag, because MyMag generated the capital, so I was able to properly invest and do the other things that we've done.
Sure. And just one thing I want to pick up on there. So your very first business, where you were doing the marketing consultancy, and you said you had to make 100 grand, that was the deal. Because I feel like there are probably a lot of people also watching this who actually, if they could turn over 100 grand to begin with, it would be like a great starting point. And yet for you to go straight in there, and that's my goal, and you achieve it. What would you say were the key triggers? Are you just somebody who gets things done?
Well, no, I think there's two things, right?
Okay.
Because I understand exactly what you're saying, but the thing is, you see, I had to do it. I had to do it, and it wasn't 100 grand of turnover. That was the money moving. Well, that was like my profit, if you like, really. Yeah. So I had to cover all my costs and still have 100 grand left for me, and I had to do it. And I had to do it because, first of all, the stakes were really high. We remortgaged the house and stuff. I figured that I gave myself a year, because I figured that if I did completely fuck it up, I'm sorry. I said I wouldn't swear on you.
It's fine.
The
MiTV viewers won't mind that.
Just sworn twice. I was trying really hard. Right, so I have lost my thread as well now. But so I had to get this 100 grand was really, really important.
Yeah.
And I'd done the remortgage and everything else, and I thought if it fails, I can at least get another job. I would still be employable within a year. Yeah. But I had to do it in a year. And my biggest driver, in truth, partly was the money, because I did care a lot, as because we all do, about the people that are close to us. And I didn't want to let Sue down. I didn't want to let my kids down. Because, I mean, one thing is, there's one thing bigger than putting your kids into private school. It's like taking them out of private school. Like, so that but you'll go a long way to avoid that happening. And so all those things were important. So that was a big driver, because I wanted to make it from a kind of positive perspective. But on the flip side, you see, all my friends, and in truth most of my family, all thought I was insane, and they all thought I was stupid, and some thought I was being really irresponsible. And in truth, what really drove me was this massive fear of failure, and I had to make it work. And that's way more important than it just like being a goal. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think it's like I was chatting to someone last week actually. It was the London Marathon recently, and this guy had run the London Marathon, and we were talking about the motivation for it, because like, oh, you have a go, I'll run the London Marathon. But if there's no big reason behind it, or when it's really cold outside or a frosty morning, or you want to turn over in bed and pull the duvet up, sort of, that's what you'll do. But if you're raising money for something that you really care about, then actually it gives you a driver, an additional driver, and you've got to plug in. There needs to be a burning desire. If there isn't a burning desire, in my experience, people won't achieve it. So people are like, oh, it'd be nice to, oh, wouldn't it be lovely to have £100,000 of income a year, or £300,000, whatever number might be. Oh, it'd be really lovely. I'd really like that. But unless there's a driver as to a reason why it really matters, then in my experience, it tends not to happen. And I think that's what you were.
Exactly, definitely that. Cause there's one thing that's always stuck in my head from a mastermind that I was in with you. And there was 1 month, this was like 4 years ago, where I needed to make £5,000 and we were going to be making a loss. And you always frame it of if your family had a gun against the head, or if you think about a situation where you had to make just say £5,000 extra sales, you would do it. Yeah. And now I apply that all the time when I think about, do I really need to achieve this? What you would actually make it happen, wouldn't you?
That is a really good device, and I mean that came out a few years ago. You know, if your life depended on it, could you do it? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's £5,000 next week or whether it's £100,000 in the year. Well, if the alternative was death, and actually I do find it a more powerful kind of metaphor to think about. You know, if I put my youngest son's Fabian, you know, so I do picture Fabian, you know, trussed up inside a dark cupboard with a nasty man outside, and he's only getting out if I achieve this. Now, he's not really trussed up in a dark cupboard, but actually, really but as a metaphor, what would and the minute you answer yes to you will get it done, well, then it's only a question of prioritization, isn't it? So what you're doing that's more important then? And they are, I mean, many a times, and I know you've had to utilise it, and the truth is, anybody that's ever achieved any success in business has had to go through some fairly shitty times, and they've had to, you know, and sometimes we get a bit of a good break and we get some good fortune, but we have to find a way through the challenges as well. And most people don't. Most people get stuck, and they get stuck on the kind of treadmill of comfort, and things are not bad enough to drive it and create that burning desire. They're just kind of okay. You know, what people actually often need is a real crisis. Then things can really shift and change. And we've seen it with the entrepreneur circle so many times.